Can you hear me? Megan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I couldn't see myself or see an option for my mute or unmute. I just arrived.
Yeah, it just says you're a non-video participant.
There
There you go.
For some reason, my buttons were all missing. For a second, I had to leave and redo it.
Are we ready? Matt, can you hear everything? You can hear me. She's nodding yes. Kelly, can you hear? Okay. Can you guys say something so we can see if we can hear you?
Yes, I can hear fine.
Yeah, Matt?
I can too.
Okay. Ready? Very good. Okay. Good evening. And welcome to the first hybrid, what was supposed to be fully live meeting, but we have a couple of people that aren't going to be here for various reasons to participate. I want to preface this by saying that we've not had a meeting at City Hall since February of 2020. So maybe we forgot how to happen. This is Ellie and I'm Ron, and we are the only people that are here. The other two are there. However, that said, we are supposed to be a 5-person voting board. We are 7-member board, 5 regulars and 2 alternates. We have a vacancy because we had a member who resigned. And we have 2 absences, one of whom was a member who had a conflict with one of the applications anyway. So out of the 6 of us, I'm sorry, out of the 7 of us, there were only 6 and we've lost 2. So that leaves 4. A full board voting is 5. From those 5, you need 3 votes to carry a motion. Okay? If we only have 3 people here, you still need 3 votes. You need 3 votes if we have 4, and 3 votes if we have 5. And to do that, we're the ones that have the problem. We did not provide a full board to consider your appeal. Therefore, at any point, either before or during, but before we vote, certainly, if you decide that you want to have the board postpone on your behalf, for whatever reason, you're thinking, well, maybe that, there's other information that may be pertinent, whatever, you can say, I don't want to go to a vote. And we may say we don't want to vote on something if we're looking for more information, that happens too, but you can say, I don't want to go for, I want you to postpone, and we will postpone on our behalf. The applicant has one postponement to use. And so, but in this particular case, because we don't have a full board to provide 5 voting members, you can ask us to postpone on our behalf only. And we can postpone till next month, we can postpone for 2 months, but in general, we postpone until the next board meeting, where we assume we'll have 5 members. We had a postponement last month, because we only had 4 voting members. And that applicant's here this evening, but may decide to or not to postpone. Okay? So, with that said, I have the agenda, and I'm going to go through this first. I just want to talk to people in general. The first one is Scott Barco, 169 Prospect. Who is that? Hi, Scott. How are you?
Good, John.
And what I'm going to tell you is that there are 4 of us. Your request is relatively simple. We'd like to try and get you done this evening and see how it's going. If at any point you're uncomfortable, then you can say, hey, wait a minute, I want to postpone. McKim Arnold, did I say that correctly? Yes, and you're here, and it's the same thing with you. Now, yours is a special use permits are a little bit different because they're sort of a matter of right, and yours is relatively simple, but again, you're here, and you can do this during, and we'll talk about when we get your application. I just want to make sure somebody was here. And at any point, if you decide that you're not comfortable, again, special use permits are a little bit different. New Way Car Wash is here. And you have both a special use permit for use of automobile car wash and installation of 10-foot fence, and you also have a variance request for construction of the tunnel car wash, division side yard and setback. And we can talk about that. And again, last month we were here, there were 4 people. This month there are again 4 people, different 4. And you can decide partway through at any point if you want to stop and wait. We have a 5-person board. Zalpa, you're here, and your extension request for previously granted special use permit for expansion of the data center. We've recently, just so you understand, this pertains to something else too, realized that the granting of extensions for special use permits and other actions by us, as well as several actions by the planning board, are not required until after a zoning and building permit. A building permit has been issued. In your case, a building permit was issued and you did not commence construction. So now you have to come back to us for an extension, which is a special use permit. That unless something has changed, I can only tell you we've never not granted an extension. Is anybody here for the city? No. Okay, the city knows about this, and so item 2232, the city of Plattsburgh was asking for grant a special use permit, was asking for an 18-month extension of that permit, but it's our opinion that we can't actually grant that because there's no need for it. Because again, they haven't gotten a building permit, and until they get the building permit, no time clock will start ticking for the 6 months. So we're not actually going to be hearing 2232 because they don't need, nor can they get. Correct, Jim?
That's right.
Okay. So that said, I'm going to start with, we don't have that chair table.
It's actually like they moved it because of the public safety meeting, so
We use this.
I could take it from those guys.
Okay.
Is that what you'd like? Is that the arrangement that you'd like to see? Do you want that table?
If we could, it's not a big deal.
All right. I might give you guys actually a little more room back there. Yes, no worries.
I don't think you guys are covered by the insurance. All right, good evening. I don't know if I did it before, but I will say, I'm still calling to order the June 21st, 2021 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The first one is appeal number 2279, Scott Markham, 169 Prospect. Come on up and have a seat. And Scott, we have some plans for you, and then we got some more. And what I can tell you is that this made it clearer, there's other drawing.
Right.
So I'm just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to kind of summarize this. You have a complete application. And I have it too. Including a secret, short form or middle form. And in a nutshell, what you want to do is remove an existing enclosed porch and build a 14 by 32 addition. What that does is the new addition would not meet one front yard requirement on Flagler. And that one is 19 feet, Kyle?
Yes.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 25, but it's much better than the rest of the house. And it's not much more than the existing. The other setbacks that are talked about on here really are all part of the existing house, not in effect here. And the numbers on here, my understanding is that where you have 25 required and 27 provided, are that you actually exceed the building coverage already at 28%, and you're going about 2.7% to 30.7 coverage, which is not excessive. Is that pretty much it? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up first to anybody on the board that might have any questions about this. Yeah. Do you have any questions? Megan, do you have any questions for Kelly? Kelly,
I'm just curious what the size of the enclosed porch is now. Is it 21 by 7?
10 by 21.
10 by 7.
So it's a 272 square foot enlargement, correct?
That's right. This addition is 272 square feet bigger.
Okay. Any other questions, Kelly?
No.
Megan? Okay. I'm going to open this to the public. Does anybody in the public have any questions or comments regarding 169 Prospect? No? Okay. I'm closing the public comment hearing portion of this application. next part of this is that we're going to look at the seeker. I've examined the seeker, and I do have a change to, don't feel bad, almost everybody has this wrong. But then question number 2, does the proposed action require a permit, approval, or funding from any other governmental agency? If yes, this agency, you have no, but it is in fact yes. You need a variance from us, variance from ZBA, and you need a building permit. That's what you need. No problem. 85% of the application can be done that. You need a building. Okay? Otherwise, I looked at it and everything seems okay with me. And what I'm looking for is a motion regarding the final 11 questions, whether or not there is a little or no environmental impact, and that the chair can check them as no or small impact, and in fact, check the box that we determine that it will not result in any insignificant adverse environmental impact. So I'm looking for that motion.
I make a motion that in regards to appeal number 2279, the board chair mark no or small impact may occur on numbers 1 through 11 and sign the above.
Okay. Seconded by Megan. This one we're going to do by show of hands. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so that's the seeker, and I have checked those. And I'm filling that out. If anybody, if nobody has any other questions, I'm looking at a motion regarding this appeal to grant the variance, for a positive motion, to grant the variance as shown for the addition as shown on the plan. With 272 square feet of coverage and a 6-foot front yard setback. Who wants to make?
I make a motion in regards to appeal number 2279 to approve the variance request for 272 extra square footage and a 6-foot setback as shown on the plans.
Seconded by Megan. The team is at it. Okay. Megan and Kelly, you're going to text or chat to Kyle. Kyle, you're going to give me filled out forms. We're going to go. A yes vote is to approve. Was it 2-2?
221. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Megan, yes?
No, you're supposed to bring me this. I need to call.
Oh, you want me to do that?
I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay,
No, that's fine. You can do it that way.
Okay, Megan is a yes, Kelly?
Yes.
Was Kelly yes?
Kelly's a yes.
Ellie was a yes, and I was a
Yes.
You're all set? Good luck in your endeavors. Appreciate it.
Start around.
That's okay. No, we're fine. Okay, the next application, Miguel, is that how do you say your name? Miguel? Can you tell me how to say your first name? Miguel. No problem, thank you. Okay. Good evening. This is actually a special use permit request to continue operation of existing grocery convenience store and add a new beauty salon and the other portion of the building in the R2 district. These are previously granted. This is a previously granted special use permit to operate these stores. And it's my understanding that you're changing from ice cream sales to, a salon. Same square footage, no addition. They both, Joe, do they both fall under neighborhood convenience store?
They do, yes.
Okay, so there's no real change in the use. It's the same square footage, you're not expanding use. If anything, I'm not sure, maybe there's less traffic for the hair salon than for ice cream. I don't know. Well, certainly in the winter, there's probably more hair salons, but in the summer, so. Anyway, again, it's a special use permit. If the original conditions met in the original special use permit are not, we do have a long form secret here, by the way, have not changed significantly. That was a matter of like. So first, I'm going to go to the board members. Does anybody have a question regarding this application in any way? This granting of a modified, slightly modified special use permit because it's not modifying square footage, only tenants. No? Kelly, no. Megan, no. Ellie, no, and I have none. I'm going to open this to the public. Does anybody have a comment regarding the Young Arno and the special use permit at 104 Montcalm Avenue? No, boy, you're a quiet crowd. I am going to close the public hearing, public comment portion regarding this.
Ron, when you open it to the public, you should give Kyle a minute to
Oh,
check.
sorry,
We're all
I
set.
forgot about that.
Yeah, there are no hands raised. but-
Okay, yeah, I'll check with you. Kyle, when I ask if there's any questions, then you can say, just like a member of the public, I have a hand raised. How's that? Okay, so because it's a special use permit, we have a long form secret. I'm going to ask it this way. Have any of the details, other than the use of beauty salon as opposed to ice cream, on the long form secret changed from the previous application?
They should not.
They did not. The only difference on this from the previous application, which, do you know when that was?
2008.
Huh?
2008.
2008?
Yeah.
Wow. Sometimes flies. That was like 8 years ago.
That wasn't for you, right? That was for
I think-
Goldsmith.
I came back after.
Yeah, originally it was Goldsmith for the special use permit and the variance for the 6 parking spaces.
I think, Ron, your memory may be correct. I came back after that.
Right.
I think it was reestablished.
Okay. So, I've looked at the seeker anyway, and I don't see anything different, and we do have, city council. The only thing I would tell you, is not required, the other local agencies probably should be yes, and that should be ZBA. We're not going to the planning board and building, not building inspectors, you're not. Are you getting a permit?
I don't think there's any changes there.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying, you're just gonna put,
Yeah.
you're not doing any structure, you're not getting a building permit. So just the ZBA, that would be B, governmental approval, D. Other than that, and because nothing has changed from the original application, this one is different. What I'm looking for is a motion from someone to say that we find that there are no adverse environmental impacts.
I'll make a motion for Appeal 2280. After review of the long form environmental assessment form, it is found that there will be little or no negative impact from this project.
Seconded by Ellen. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's the secret. If there are no other questions, I'm looking for a motion regarding the modification of the original SUP to allow the change from ice cream to a hair salon.
I'll make a motion for Appeal 2280. I make a motion for approval of the special use permit request to continue the operation of the existing grocery convenience store and to change the other half of the building to a beauty salon to be operated out of the other half of the building.
Now, would that be for the whole building later?
I have a question, the grocery store they used to have, that I would like to, if this guy who rents the grocery store doesn't work out, I'd like to have the hair salon that location.
Oh, but it's in the same building. though.
Right.
Right, yeah, we're also,
Same building, no expansion.
okay, so this is to, the special use permit to allow the grocery store and the hair salon
Yeah.
in the same building, no increase in size.
Yeah.
Right. You made the motion, did somebody second it?
Second.
Okay, so the yes vote is to approve the SUP.
Jim,
I'm sorry.
Ron Tassel, I don't think I'm on the paperwork in terms of signing, so just add that my name's James Adele and I'm owner of the property,
Oh,
so that it's on the record.
okay, right. And this is appeal. Did they text you? What happened? Did you text me?
Yes.
This is so much more secret. Is everybody in the, there are 4 positive votes, you're all set? Good luck with your salon. I'm glad that everything is okay, and it really was not even a change in use, frankly, so I'm glad you participated in the process. I'd like to, I want to just know one thing, is anybody else here besides him for Zappa?
No.
You guys are done, you're on.
Thank you.
No, I think they're.
Is anybody else here for Zappa?
We're not for it, but we're discussing it.
Okay. If you don't mind, because most of this is obviously about new way, I'm gonna change the order of the agenda, which is.
I don't mind, but I just want to make sure you understand. They're not saying they're here for that application. They're not here in favor of it.
Huh?
They're also here to discuss that.
Right,
Okay.
I know that, but I'm gonna do Zappa first, and then new way.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to, because most.
I thought you were proposing the other way
No, right now, it is shown as new way and then Zappa.
around. Okay.
So come on up, and we're gonna do Zappa first. Okay, okay, so in a nutshell, perhaps you heard me and didn't hear me earlier on, or did or didn't understand what I said, so I'm gonna say it again, just be careful. Zappa got a special use permit. What we're here to, what he's asking us to do is extend the special use permit because he got a building permit, and after 6 months, the law requires him to renew that, extend that special use. That's what we're voting on. And frankly, as long as the conditions, the plans and everything that was submitted to the original special use permit are the same, the way we've always dealt with special extensions, and we're doing, in a sense, a little differently, because we're just extending that for 6 months. Somebody getting one and not taking it. What's going to happen is that this is a special use permit. They're a matter of right. Special use permits, and I didn't talk about it before, but so we understand what a special use permit is. In general, a special use permit is a use allowed within a district by special permit. And they're a matter of right. They're not denied. This is not a use variance. This is a special use permit. When we talk about this, that's what we talked about with the city and crime. So just so you understand. So This is only the grant, and unless something is changed about the application, in other words, we said, I'm gonna use more power, I'm gonna make it bigger. If everything is the same as the original application, I'm just explaining to you, if everything is the same as the original application, that's what we're considering is something that is a matter of right that we've always granted. I'm just telling you how it works. You'll get a chance to speak.
Oh, I hope so.
Thank you. So, I'm gonna start, this is Zafra, 126 Idaho, and I just want some dates. When did we originally grant this?
I think September 2019.
Over 219. And you got a building permit when?
November of 2019.
Okay. And did you do any work?
We did not.
Okay. And so the building permit expired, and by the law, the special use permit now needs to be extended. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So that is what we're talking about. I'm first going to ask, and we will have a public comment period, but I'm going to ask the board, if anybody on the board has a question. Well, I do have a question first. I just want to make sure. The original plans, specifications, and everything, have they changed?
They've only been updated to meet all the building codes as we were changing.
Right,
things.
but I'm talking about capacity, square
No.
footage,
Everything's the same.
everything's the same. Have you changed anything about the fans or the?
Everything on our permits or our applications is the same.
Okay, to us, not the, we didn't do the building permit, we only
No.
did the zoning. Everything relative to this permit, I'm sorry, the special use permit.
Is the same, yes.
Does anybody on the board have any questions before I open? No. Okay. I'm going to open this now to the public, and you need to stand, say your name and address, and then we'll take your time. So who wants to go first? Okay, come on, right up. And your name is?
Ernie Gillespie, I have 89 Main.
Actually,
89 Main Mill Street, I live, Ernie Gillespie. One question I want to ask him is, are you going to start using fans, more fans than you're using now?
We currently aren't using any fans. This would be a new installation.
When did you stop using
Well, our small operation, we have fans, but if you're referring to the fans that are currently running, that's not our business or operation.
Right, but you're gonna add to their, he said they're already making, we've had issues with that. I've talked to Joe about this, the building inspector, and more computers, we're gonna put more computers in place.
This would be in a separate section of the building of our own
But
operation.
you're gonna put more computers,
There would be computers installed.
and they overheat, so you gotta cool.
Yes, there would be fans installed.
My issue with this is, there's problems right now with fans up there making too much noise. There's people across the river, over by, Plattsburgh High School is having a problem with it. Joe, if you ask Joe, he'll tell you, they come to him too. They were here when the last meeting, probably the issue is. Thing is, if you're gonna add more fans, now, if you're gonna add those fans on the side that's going right towards that big yellow house, that's gonna spread everything else, it's gonna make things really noisy. You gotta remember, it's industrial zone, and we could go into a whole day on that issue. But there's 7 homes there. You know, and for his sake, I hope they make millions. Really, all I want to do is, when I'm sitting in my house at home, this time of year when my window's open, I want to be able to have to turn my TV up to 30, 35 volume so I can hear what the heck's going on. And if he's going to add more fans to it, you know, there's got to be a way. I know he's got to have the exhaust, but there's got to be a way to muffle it.
mm-hmm.
And until, you know, I'd like this denied because until they can fix the existing problem that's making noise.
Right.
They haven't fixed that. They say they're going to, but they don't do it. You gotta remember, it's a person's home. You go there, home at the end of the day, you wanna relax, put on the TV, watch the news or whatever, and I got these stands home.
Right. I understand. I'm just going to explain to you this way, and I'm not trying to be, smart ass about this quickly, but the fact of the matter is that we discussed all this back during the original special use permit application that was granted, understanding all those things, and I'm not in any way, we talked about, at that time, I remember that, this, back then, we talked about ambient noise in neighborhoods and what's considered allowable, and frankly, we've had the same discussion several times about Bombardier and the beeping of the machine vacuum, and I understand it. One of the problems is, and I fully understand it in the same way that I have college kids all around me on Couch Street, is that we.
The difference is though.
Wait, let me just finish. Those are things that are part of that district that are allowed. But the fact of the matter is that in general, when we granted something and they come back for an extension, if nothing has changed from the original application, we go, well, we gave it to you last time, but we're not going to do it. It's not in our power to do that. I'm just telling you.
So then what was the purpose of him coming?
What's that?
What was the purpose of him coming here? Like, when he just left?
Because it's required that he comes and get, that we renew the special use permit and make sure that nothing is
Just
changed.
one competitive things here.
What, it's our duty to make sure that nothing is changed. That's the issue. And I'm not, listen,
Well, and what I'm gonna say on this issue is that when I moved in there was no Bombardier, there was no, all it was a middle shift change.
I fully understand, and not only that, I'm sympathetic to your point. I'm not being, but we have certain jurisdictions and certain things we're allowed to do, and I'm not, this isn't an excuse of, well, I'm just gonna grant it anyway. This is really what it is. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if he came back and said, oh yeah, we're doubling our size, we're gonna have 30 fans instead of 10, that'd be a whole different thing.
So he can't add any more fans than what he's been.
But he can't add any more fans than what he had on the application previously.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Go on, Heidelberg. Say your name and stuff and you see the motion.
I live at 9 Alex Way. You just said that you granted Bombardier and everything else. Well, Bombardier was granted a permit in 1995. That wasn't industrial in 2000 until 2001. By the stroke of the pen, am I right? Because we
No.
went to court on
I
it.
know there's been a lot of discussions
That's
about
right.
that. I
So,
understand.
and it wasn't granted. According to this, it says that it's an expansion. Yet in the application, it says it's not.
I think that's because that was the language for the original application, back 2 years ago. So this wasn't an expansion of what was approved. This was the same title as what was used 2 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
It says that they're going to be getting financial assistance from the city of Plattsburgh.
I don't know. That's not our jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is only that we grant a special use permit.
Is this the secret?
I understand that.
Okay.
As long as everything on
If he
this,
is going to have more expansion,
he's not adding.
it says expansion on even on the
It
card.
is the expansion that we originally approved
Okay,
in 2019. He is not allowed to expand more than what we approved in 2019. That's the only expansion that's allowed. He's asking permission to continue to work on the expansion that he was originally granted a special use permit.
okay. Did you really go through this? Because on page 10, it asks if there's an existing dam. It says, no, yeah, there is an existing dam. It also talks about a 100-year floodplain. It says, no, it's not in it. Yes, it is. In fact, just within the last, 4 years, I believe it is, 5 years maybe, Underwood Avenue is flooded out. HUD had to buy all those trailers and replace them. Some went back there, some didn't. Okay, so,
All I can tell you is that if this is the same application as the original one, it hasn't changed, then we granted the special use permit back then, and we are enjoined, or whatever you want to call it, to approve the extension, because that unless something changes from the original application, at that point, if something changes, then we start all over again, but he's not changing from the original
in
application.
other words, if this wasn't filled out properly in the first place, and nobody said anything about it, it's okay to just shuffle it under
Well,
the
first
rug
of
now?
all, the question is, A, whether or not it was filled out properly, B, whether we discussed it at the meeting, and if we went back to the minutes of the meeting, whether it was talked about, or it was a floodplain, or wasn't, and I know you were there in time to the event. What I'm going to tell you is that we are taking at face value, which is what we have to do, the fact that this application is the same as the last one we approved. And all we're doing is offering an extension. We're not here to recharge whether it was industrial in 1 year, whether it's a floodplain or not. We granted the special use permit. It's not forced, but our jurisdiction is to grant an extension for that when, and if nothing has changed, we have to grant the extension. And that's the rules. I mean,
So in other words, if this wasn't looked at really carefully
it
the
was
first
looked at,
time,
well, that's your opinion, but as far as we're concerned, we spent quite a time. Remember, Kathy Inge was on this board, and we had all kinds of fights about amount of electrical. We went over and over and over on this. There were probably 50 people in this room at that time.
oh, I know.
And we were accused of all kinds of things about how bad and incompetent we were to do stuff. So the fact of the matter is, in the end, we granted a special use permit. Now, what I would tell you, and I'm sorry to be cross about this, but frankly, everybody comes and says, oh, zoning, you can do this, zoning, you can do that. I'm not going to walk on it. But the fact of the matter is, we have certain jurisdictions and certain things we can do. Once we granted, I'm going to say it as plainly as I can, we granted a special use permit. We accepted the application. You can tell me all the things that are wrong about it, but we accepted it. We granted it. He's been working on this ever since. His time ran out and he needs an extension. That's all he's asking for. He's not asking to change it anyway. We are enjoined and bound to extend that unless something is changed. That's all there is to it. I don't know how to tell you.
Okay.
Maybe that makes me stupid or evil. I'm not sure about it. Oh. So, anyway, are there any other comments regarding this? Go ahead.
My name is Richard Hawkersmith. I live at 59 Adirondack Lane. Joe knows where I live. Sure. Let me say there was, I can say that the notification of neighbors, because none of us living in Adirondack townhouses were notified by your last meeting of that. This is the first time I've heard about your wanting to do this. So I say to the board, shame on you for not notifying us neighbors about your meetings. Well, secondly, I'd like to know how you get on the garden board. If you have an opening, I would sure like to be on it. Because I think some of your decisions, what I've heard, have a lot of complaints about. Maybe you know what? What?
Have a seat.
Okay.
Come on, you can chair the board.
I've been the president of Adirondack HOA.
Why don't you chair?
For 3 years, and going that board for 10 years.
I'm not
You
sure.
think that's not a problem, that you didn't notify your neighbors?
All right, let's just hold on a second.
What happened Friday?
No, hold
What
on,
happened Friday?
just hold on a second.
How about this?
It's not the chairperson's responsibility to notify, that's my office's responsibility. So
Okay.
are you saying 2 years ago you were not notified about this?
Yes.
Because everybody, we can pull up the list of people, everybody within 500 feet should have been notified the same way. So that's on us, that has nothing to do with any of the board members, okay? So, now, when you say what happened Friday,
Yeah.
are you talking about the noise from across the way that you sent me an email? Okay, that has nothing to do with this application, okay, that's a separate issue.
Why did that happen?
Why did that happen?
Yes.
I don't run the business,
Why does it sound like airplanes taking off every
Okay, as soon as you made me aware of it, and by the way, I wasn't even working that day, I still addressed it, okay? Or tried to, so, I mean, I hope you know that, you know, my intentions were good. I don't know why their operation, I don't know if a fan malfunction, I don't know, but,
Did you inspection today?
yes, I did, actually.
Which one?
I found that it seemed a lot quieter today.
It was.
Okay. And my understanding is those fans are gonna stay down to 65% until they make permanent repairs to keep the sound down.
What are the repairs?
I'm working on that with them.
I'd like to know what they're repairing.
Well, when I know, I'll let you know. How's that sound?
Good enough.
Thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Now, is this application the same as the previous application?
Yes, the only difference I did was the last one, I filled out all by hand. This one, I used the DEC website and then I refilled it out by hand. So, and that's just.
Have there been any significant changes or any changes at all to the secret?
No.
All right, and board, just because we've heard your comments, does anybody on the board have any questions? No, Megan?
Well, Ron, I think we have other public that wants to comment, and I think we have somebody on chat.
Okay.
We have someone on chat who asked a question, but isn't getting back to me right now.
Okay, first of all, does anybody else here want to make a comment? Come on up and have it. Go ahead.
My name is Kelly Duca, and I live at 43 Adirondack. Thank you so much.
Yes.
This has been very educational. Your explanation. Very helpful to me.
Okay.
I'm very happy. I'm very grateful to come to you. I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
I would like to respectfully just ask a simple question. I have several things I wanted to say, but this has been so educational. I retract the things I did. I would just like to suggest that a respectful industrial neighbor, located in a residential neighborhood, should strive to be a good neighbor. Our experience with Zafra LLC shows a consistent lack of respect for neighbors and the lack of serious commitment to mitigating noise. As the business has grown, the noise has increased. Zafra, past practice is the best indicator of future behavior. Zafra LLC has had numerous opportunities to address the noise that they cause and has chosen not to consistently do so. There is no reason to believe they will change. The 21 members in our committee are here to I appreciate that this board does not have the authority to do anything about that. I did not know. And I understand the situation. My comment is just to wish that as a neighbor, that you would aggressively consider our fathers as well as the noise. And I welcome
Okay, thank you. And I want to bring something, very good, I want to bring something up that we talked about the last time. And that is that the city of Plattsburgh has a noise ordinance.
Yes.
And when I talk about jurisdiction, and I'm sorry I get upset with everything.
Oh, no.
No, but anyway, but when I talk, because we are limited, and we went through this 2 years of time about what we were allowed to do and not allowed to do. But the city of, there are different parts of enforcement, there are different parts of rulemaking, there are different parts of zoning, planning, everything. But enforcement is done by the police, it's done by the building inspectors, it's not done by the zoning boards, it's not done by the planning boards, but we hopefully control some of this. So what I can tell you is that there's a noise ordinance and it changes a little bit here and there, but basically, if you're in a residential neighborhood and somebody uses their lawnmower at 2 in the afternoon on Saturday, that's not so bad, but if they do it at 3 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday night, you can say, hey, they're making too much noise. When college kids on Couch Street are making too much noise at 9 at night, I don't say much about it, but if it's 3 in the morning when you come down my street, if I want to, I can, they're gone, I can make it noisy. And we talked about this in the previous meeting when he came in 2019, and that was that if the noise is too much, then you can say, hey, that's making a noise that is not, should not be allowed. Again, we have different standards of noise. Laverne, who I have a lot of understanding about, because we've dealt with about bombarding and their noises right outside your bedroom window for a long time. And you on the same thing, I mean, those are noises that are relatively inherent to an industrial thing, so the noise ordinance is different. Or when somebody's building next to you. But what I'm going to tell you is that that is also a powerful tool. So if he makes too much noise, you don't just have to sit there and lie around that lane and go, hey, I got to put up with it. You can say, this is too loud, he's got to figure out a way to muffle it. And that's the truth. And that, that doesn't mean they're going to tell him, stop doing this until you do this. But there's guidelines and times and all that stuff. And that's a powerful tool that we have. We don't have that tool, but you have.
And I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments? Kyle, do you have one?
No, someone just asked about ownership of the property. I answered it.
Okay. Are there any other public comments regarding Zappa? No? Okay, I'm going to now close the public comment period and public hearing for Zappa. Does anybody on the board have a question regarding Zappa and the extension of the special use? No. I think that we're extending a special use permit. This is my understanding of the zoning law. With the same seeker, where nothing has changed. I would like to have the motion include both the seeker and the acceptance of the seeker as being the same as previously submitted in 2019. And the application, I'd like to mention that both the seeker and application are the same information and plans as submitted in 2019. And I'm looking for a motion regarding the approval of the extension of the special use permit for Zappa.
I make a motion to approve appeal number 2216, the extension, with the understanding that the application and the seeker are identical to the previous approval back in September 16th, 2019.
Second, Megan. Okay, a yes vote is to approve the extension. This would be a 6-month extension. Correct?
That's right.
For appeal, I'm sorry, 2216. Appeal number 2216, 6/21/21. A yes vote is to approve.
Richard, I need that back, by the way, for the numbers.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to show you that.
Yeah. That's
Okay, we have 4 yes votes. Your extension is approved for 6 months. The only thing I would say, Joe, here's a question for you. I don't know if it's going to take you 6 months to get started. More?
No, we're actually looking to get started hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. So then, Joe, you need to go to him and get a new bill extension on the building permit also.
Yes.
Okay? And what I'm going to tell you is, since that one expired, that 6 months is going to start from the date that permit is issued, correct?
Yes.
Right. So the new clock ticking for both is once you get a permit, you need a new one.
Mm-hmm.
You have 6 months to start, or else you're going to come back to the extension.
Got it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, City of Plattsburgh, and this will be clear, we don't need, correct?
That's right.
Okay. I've had enough. Everybody ready to go home now, Ellie? I didn't say, let's go to the Pepper.
Sounds good to me.
Story. I know it's not that funny. All right. Good evening. All right. Is everybody here now new way? Is this all new way? Everybody? Okay. And we have, for anybody that, well, you wouldn't have been here because you were on Zoom once. We have an application from New Way Car Wash for a class, I'm going to read what it is, just to be safe. Class B area variance request for construction of a tunnel car wash, building with office space deficient in side yard setback and commercial drive. To understand what those are, and some of you do and some of you don't, in that district, you either have zero, we see this all the time in this district, and out at Skyway and several places in the city. You're required to either have 0 or 12-foot setback. So they could build right on the property line, or they could build 12 feet from the property line. And almost every business there ends up, not everyone, but many of them end up, depends if they have a drive or not, but somewhere. So they're providing 4 feet, I believe, and it's only because they're not 0 or 12. But they could be 0, so we understand. I just want to understand the nature of that deficiency. The driveway width has to do with what is required, and theirs is bigger, correct, Joe? Theirs is bigger, their driveway is bigger, and that makes it so. So that's that one. The other part is that it's a special use permit request for use of automobile car wash and installation of a 10-foot fence in the side and rear yard. So, where is the drive-through use issue, Joe? Or is that not an issue?
I'm sorry, what?
Is the drive-through is the, isn't there something about this being within so many feet of
200
residential?
feet, 200 feet of an artist.
Yeah, but where is that on this? In other words, I just want to be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about the Class B variance for the tunnel car wash building with office space. Is that the
Part
part?
of 2272.
Huh?
It's part of 2272.
Right. That is because they're building a tunnel car wash, which is a drive-through business.
Yes,
That's an area variance.
that's right.
The second area variance is because of the deficient side yard, 4 feet as opposed to 0 or 12. And the third area variance is the commercial driveway.
That's right.
The other one is a special use permit, which again, in general, a matter of right. In other words, if it's a use, it's allowed in the third column. We'll talk about when we get to that. You're allowed to have an automobile car wash in that district. That's an allowed use for the special permit. And unless you can demonstrate that use, the whole point of the special use permits when they come to us is unless you demonstrate that use in that district. This has nothing to do with closer or not to the residential district. That's the area. It's special use. I just want everybody to understand what we're talking. A lot easier. That special use is because it's an automobile car wash. They're allowed to be there. But they have to come to us to prove that it's not a detriment, frankly, to that need. Route 3, where it is. And or, in some ways, the adjoining residential use. Okay? And the 10-foot fence is a special use permit that we've been, once we discovered how it worked a few years ago, instead of giving variances for 10-foot fences, you're allowed a 6-foot fence, and we have now gone to special use permits for 8 and even 10-foot fences inside and rear yards, basically where people are protecting one, especially where they're protecting one type of district from another, the impact, or somebody's got their neighbor's yard is much higher, from their lawn, they need a 10-foot fence, or, you know. So those are the 2 special use permits. So you want to come up and, the other thing, as I said, is that we have only 4 board members. If at any point you want to stop.
Thank you.
So we had some public comments last month, and we're going to start over with that. Okay? Only for several reasons, not the least of which is that you've been to the planning board. Ellie wasn't here last month. She's here this month and so on. Okay. And so I guess what I would say is and you've been to the planning board.
Correct.
And we have a copy of their resolution. And what did the planning board, did they make you change anything?
They made us clarify a couple of things, such as you submitted on the 9th, the building department, an updated sketch plan, basically address outlining our variance or our approval conditions from the zoning board. On the plan, we also, after review with the owner, made a couple of changes, specifically in the length and size, actually reduced it in size, pulling it away from our district by about 20 feet, actually gave us a little bit more stacking capability.
I'm sure you said at one point.
They shortened the building up,
Right.
moving it further away from the R district.
And that's because I have last month's application. That's what this is now, is the plan after the planning board. Is that
Correct. Correct. We updated that, submitted that to the building's office. Gave us some additional, it also gave us some additional stacking capacity in the drive-through. So we believe that's positive. It did not reduce anything on the exit side of the car wash. That's in the same location as before. In addition, I do believe that the planning board also submitted a memo to the zoning board outlining their findings in regards to the driveway, turning capacity, specifically turning to the left or to the west. They did a pretty thorough outline and felt that it was
But again,
not an issue.
I think we talked last month, and that was going to be the purview of the jurisdiction of the planning board.
I just wanted to offer that the planning board did offer.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that as long as they were dealing with it, that was not our jurisdiction, frankly, or I guess theoretically area of expertise. Okay, right. I mean, in other words, that's their, okay. So, but in a nutshell, you're still 4 feet from the property line. The building is smaller. And did they have a problem? Right now, you're showing a 33-foot 6-inch. You're showing a 40-foot 2 curb cut and 33-foot 6 wide driveway. And what is it supposed to be, Joe?
Can't exceed 60%, I think what we're saying, which is, you're slightly over.
It is slightly over. Slightly over. Quite frankly, when we walked into we initially reviewed this plan, I believe there's many driveways in the city that probably are this width. I don't know how many address that, but it was one thing that got picked up. The initial review that even the building was. We'll get questioning at first. So, but once again, as far as the planning board goes, they did
Where's the
not,
lot width, 66?
66. The planning department did not offer any comment in regards to that width. In fact, they gave that memo to the zoning board justifying why it works.
So 39.6 is what they deal out.
Is that driveway or curb cut?
That is entrance drive or curb cuts shall be limited in width to 60% of the total lot.
Say it again.
Entrance drives and or curb cuts shall be limited in width to 60% of the total lot.
And it's 39 feet 6?
39.6.
39.6 feet, and this is, so that'd be 39 feet, 7.2 inches. So this is 40 feet, so it's about 5 inches different. Is there no way to make the curb cut 5 inches smaller? And that being sarcastic.
There probably is something that we could work with.
Well, I mean, it's not quite 5 inches.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not quite 7 inches. Right, Jim? You're 39.6 feet.
Yep.
You're 40 feet 2 inches. You've gone from 39 feet 7.2 inches.
I think that's something we could probably, work.
I mean, I think it just eliminates an area.
So once again, 39.6 instead.
You know,
It's something, that's the.
here's the part, here's a curb cut, and then these are slanted, correct?
Mhm.
However, gradually, once they started slanting, they're not curb cut anymore, is that correct?
Yeah, that's typically 18 inches that taper.
What's it, 18 inches?
Yeah.
But it's from the bottom of that. The curb cut is from the bottom, not where it's.
That's right. You wouldn't be expecting to
Okay,
try.
so the question is, can you change your plan by 6.8 inches,
Yes,
right?
right.
Well, I'm just gonna say that, can you change that to 39.6 feet?
We
Right.
can work with that.
So, the only reason I'm doing that is because the commercial driveway width now goes away from that request. Right, Joe? You agree?
I agree.
There's nothing in there about the 4 foot. And so, Joe, just to understand the area, the other area of variance, which is, it's 200 feet from a commercial or residential district. But it doesn't matter where they have this because it's property on property.
It's property line, yes.
Yeah, so you're zero. I mean, for all along the tree, it's 0 from the commercial district. We'll get I just want to be clear what it is. It doesn't, if you had this driveway all the way up, I mean, then later in front of it, I don't know how long, it doesn't matter, property line.
It's not the service window.
Huh?
It's not the service window.
No, it's not the service, it's not where you drive, it's not any. Property line, so no matter what you do, okay. I just want to be clear about this. Then, the other is a special use permit request for use of automotive car wash and the installation of fence. Those are both special use permits and they're relatively minor as of right. We can talk about detriment or not, and we'll get to that. I want to ask you about noise, because of what I've been hearing mostly about, and I've had some comments. So I want to understand, is there a measurement, like it's so many dB, this goes outside? Or, do you know how loud is it?
Sure. So what I did after the last meeting, I went around to all of the car washes inside the city, one of which is mine on Margaret Street. And I measured the decibels 60 feet from
How far?
60 feet from the exit end, which is the loudest end of the car wash, right where the one is. And each and every one of them measured between 77 and 79 decibels. Ours on Margaret Street measured 77, the one on Beach Street measured 77, the one up on Route 3 measured 78. And then I measured the decibel levels at the entrance side of the car wash, which in this situation would be the side that's closest to the residential area. And I went back 70 feet, because at that time, that's what we were looking at to the property line on this one. And that measured, at our car wash on Margaret Street, that measured 65 decibels. I measured the one on Route 3, which is Eco Wash, which measured about 67 decibels. And that's because there's a lot of, sound travels, right, in a certain way. And inside the automatic car wash, there's a lot of cloth in there that probably absorbs the sound. So I'm not a scientist. But I assume that's the way why that would be so much less at the entrance side than it is at the exit side.
And the blowers are closer to the exit side. Are they noisy?
Right at the exit, yes.
Right, so are they one of the noisier parts of this?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But they're at the Route 3 end.
The Route 3 end, yes.
But
I also measured I would think you'd say ambient decibel level of just the traffic on Route 3 was close to 70 decibels.
What, 70?
Close to 70 decibels with traffic driving by, tractor trailers driving by, motorcycles driving by. I have about 70 decibels.
Just out of curiosity, what time of day was that, the traffic?
It was at,
What time? Oh, sorry.
it was at about 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
What was the answer to that question?
It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Ross,
I'm going to start with,
I think Megan had just started to say something.
I just had a question too. Does it make a difference? I know in the summertime, the doors are typically open at the car wash, and in the wintertime, they're closed, but does that make a difference in sound?
So I measured it with the doors open.
Okay.
But I would assume, yes, we have what we call a wind door on the exit end of the car wash, which is by the blowers, that is typically only opens up as the car passes through it. There would be, maybe on some busier days, we'll keep it open if it's, say, above 30 degrees. But typically in the winter times, if we're concerned on heat, we keep that door closed.
Okay.
what are the hours of operation?
We're looking at 7 to 7. Yeah, I don't know if that's cut in stone, but we would never be open any later than 8, but 7 to 7 is what I'm thinking right now.
What are your other ones?
We close Margaret Street at 5:30, we open at 8 o'clock. We close the Skyway at 6, we open at 8.
Would you ever be open before?
So,
Would we ever be open before 7 o'clock?
Just to clarify, I believe our initial summary of the planning board was 7.
okay,
I don't know if there's a need for it that late in the evening, but I'm not sure. It would not go past 8.
I just know we get complaints from residents in that area about early morning stuff like garbage. They want to get in there early, get the garbage and.
We'd never be there before 7.
is there much business at 7 o'clock in the morning? People
I can't speak for a Route 3 location, but for our Margaret Street location, what I've noticed is in the summertime, when we have longer daylight hours, people tend to be moving around a little bit more. And maybe they notice that you're open. I go down myself. My guy doesn't get there till 8. There's some days I'm sitting there at 7:30, and a few cars will pull in, so I'll just open the doors and I'll wash them. But it's 2 or 3 hours.
Board questions, so, that's what I'm like. Kelly, any questions?
I'm going to reserve any questions for after the public speaks.
Okay. Megan, are you all set, or Kelly, do you have any questions?
I'm set for right now.
Let's go to some public hearing portion then. And again, you're gonna come up here and you're gonna say who you are and where you live, and then go from there. Who wants to go first?
Ron, did we decide that we couldn't ask, Ron, didn't we decide that we couldn't ask them? Didn't we decide we couldn't ask them where they live?
I believe so. He was asking if we decided that we could not put where they lived, and I believe that was correct.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't even think you can ask their name. You can say
I'll
your
give
name.
you my name. My name is Jason Frank. I'm a representative of Splash Car Wash. We purchased the Eco Car Wash across the street. We're within the 500 feet of this proposal. So we were notified of the public hearing, which we received at that time. A couple of points I wanted to bring up before I get into this. There was some comments made. I know your submission to the planning board was simply to accept the application and accept the first run of the site plan, I guess.
Right, the sketch plan.
The sketch plan, right. So they didn't actually have a meeting or a public hearing or anything like that. There were some comments made in that meeting that there were no neighbors that were opposed to this plan, but they're in fact not going to leave some of them. So that was a statement that was made to that board that just wasn't true. I don't know if they hadn't received the notice like we did.
Or it was maybe, there might be now, and right, that was a week after our meeting.
I believe so.
Yeah, so maybe then.
So, I've got some information that I'd like to get out to you, and I'll try and be as quick and to the point as I can. But I believe it's the duty of this board and the planning board to promote the health and safety and well-being of the neighborhood. And I think that, given the variances that are needed, especially the one where, I understand it's an approved use in that zone, but there's a variance needed to put it within 200 feet of a residential district. I think some of the points that I'm going to make will make you understand that. I really think that this should not be approved.
Well, I got a question for you. This is a curiosity. You represent the other.
I did, and I know I'm competitive, but we are.
When I come off onto Cornelia Street and I go to Code, you're pretty close to 200. You're not much further than 200 feet from the residential uses on Code, right?
We're probably, without measuring it right now, we're probably outside of 300 feet. We would guess we take in the distance. So, we would be outside of the 200 feet for sure. So,
Yeah, okay, I was just
so we wouldn't need that variance.
Yeah, I'd say it's an additional 66 feet of the roadway.
Yeah. Plus the entire property.
right. So if your property line is at the road, there's however wide that road is, and then there's.
Yeah, and then
What's the width of the
there's
property?
the other properties are 150 at least, if not.
Right, yeah.
We're well outside of the two.
No, I understand.
So first is, I know that they reduced the size of the car wash to 100 feet, which still has the capacity to wash anywhere between 110 and 125 cars per hour. There was a comment from a staff member on the planning board that she had gone to the location and made a left-hand turn without a problem in the middle of the day during some rush hour. And then there was a lot of discussion in that meeting about how many cars per hour were going to be leaving that property. And the applicant stated that there was going to be a 2 to 3 minute gap in between vehicles leaving, based on what his projection is that the facility is going to wash. The fact is that if you build it in a certain way, more people are going to want to come. So if you build a bigger, fancier place with more equipment and more people are going to desire to wash the car there, and you can't control how many people are going to want to come. So if you build something that has the capacity to wash up to 125 cars per hour, you can't control how many people are going to want to show up and use that. And I understand that they have enough stacking to meet the regulation. However, the fact of the matter is, if 125 cars an hour decide to wash there, you're going to have a car exiting that tunnel every 28 seconds. So more than 2 cars per minute are going to be leaving. And if they want to make that left-hand turn, it's not going to be easy to get them out of there, which could create backups, which could then create stacking out into the road. So I think it's something that.
Just out of curiosity, what's the capacity per hour of your truck?
That car wash, how many feet is our tunnel? 140. Our tunnel is 140 feet, so the capacity is 165 cars an hour. but we exit onto the side road, which has a traffic light, to then let people onto Cordelia Avenue. So we're not, the exit of this car wash tunnel is so close to the road that once 2 or 3 cars get backed up on it, you're going to run into a situation where people can't turn left fast enough. Cars are going to be smashing into each other unless they stop the conveyor, which in turn would back up on cars.
But it's not a problem particularly with this car wash.
Well, it could be a capacity. It very well could be a problem for this car wash because of that many people. If you're trying to get over 2 cars a minute to go out to the left.
And I'm not trying to be, I'm playing devil's advocate. I used to have 165 cars an hour coming through your car wash. When they stack up.
But I don't require a variance.
No, I'm not asking, but we're talking about this issue about whether they can turn left or right.
Correct. Ours have a traffic light to exit and turn.
Yeah, and you have about 6 cars from the end of your parking lot. I mean, the end of your thing out to that light, and after those 6 cars are out there.
We can then have cars circulate through the property and exit further.
I understand, I'm just trying to.
I understand your position.
And I'm not trying to defend them, I just want to understand.
I feel that you are on some regards, and I understand that, but it's okay. But what we have doesn't have any.
No, you're right, it doesn't.
Anything
I'm not understanding the industry
whatsoever. So, and I've built and been involved in the building of over 30 locations. This is what I do. 10 meetings, I'm going to get into.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, I'd like to submit to you just some examples from every equipment manufacturer. And not every, but 3 or 4 of the major equipment manufacturers as to how many cars per hour is a certain car wash tunnel needs. So, given the space requirements of this property, and the fact that the new way car wash folks think that they're only going to need 60 cars per hour, I would suggest that even if this application were to be considered, they should reduce the size of the tunnel to one that has that capacity. Less people are going to want to use it, so on and so forth. You're not going to generate as much traffic. So a 50-foot car wash tunnel has the capacity of 60 cars an hour. And I can make copies of that. I think we're submit those to you all.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one for the applicant as well.
But
So
kind of in a way, what you're saying is, we have 165 cars an hour capacity. We want him to go down to 50 because he's stacking different. And I'm just going to tell you,
that's not what I'm saying.
this is different than somebody who says, this is going to be too noisy in my backyard when I'm swimming.
And I'll get to that.
But I understand, but it's sort of like.
Sir, I understand.
It just seems like what you're saying is make it so less people come to this car.
I'm saying make it so that it is not a detriment to health, safety of all people. And that is your duty, sir.
All right, I understand, and that is our duty.
So that being said, then the next issue that this property has is there's no bypass lane. So I believe under plan I wrote a copy that there's maybe 15 to 17 cars that can stack up to get into this car wash. Every single car wash manufacturer and operator designs a way for cars to exit if they can't go through the car wash for some reason. It happens every day. Some cars are lowered and they're too low. You won't catch it until they're all the way up at the entrance of the car wash. Some cars have lift kits and they're too tall and they can't fit through the equipment. Sometimes somebody rolls their window down to greet the attendant and they can't get it to roll back up. Or their antenna broke, or their credit card declined, or they decide they don't want a car wash. They have no way to exit this property without backing 17 cars out of line in reverse onto Cornelia Street. And that will be a detriment to the health, safety, and well-being of this neighborhood, including the residential neighborhood behind it, because those people need to come off that traffic and turn onto Cornelia Avenue. Here's some examples of car washes that I've designed in the very recent past. There's one we just had approved in the state of Connecticut. Cars enter off of Route 1, and before they go into the car wash, there's a bypass lane where they can get out and exit without going through the car wash. This is another one that we just proposed in West Haven, Connecticut. Cars can enter before they go through the car wash. There's a bypass lane.
Do you have a bypass lane at yours on Community Street?
We do. There's, from the time that they go through the pay stations, there is where the automated pay stations are, where people make their decision to purchase. Between there and all the way up to leading to the tunnel, people can exit. So if we have a car that's too low, they can just turn out and leave. We don't have to back any cars up to get them up.
Okay.
And it happens in the car wash business every single day, multiple times. So in a situation where this thing is at capacity and they're queuing this full, there's no other way other than to back all those cars up. So I have examples from Sunny's car wash, which is one of the major equipment builders. It was just one where I could find all of their plans online. Every single design, even the smallest ones at 50 feet, have a bypass or an exit. Next would be sound, and this would definitely have to do with the 200 foot from the neighbors. The same Sunny's car wash hired a firm to do a noise study on the drivers of the car wash. So measured outside of the tunnel in direct line from the entrance of the car wash, which is the one further from the dryers, which is facing the residents. At 99 feet, they measured 77 decibels. We measured it in our car wash as well at 79, a little closer than 100 feet. So that being said, even with a fence that high, you know, I just did some Googling after that, and I Googled how much noise a gas-powered leaf blower makes. And at 50-foot ranges, a leaf blower is 64 to 78 decibels. So at 77 decibels, this would be like sitting in your backyard, having a barbecue with your next door neighbor running a leaf blower, even on the other side of the fence, which I'm sure all of us have dealt with at some point, but not just for 10 minutes. It's going to be for 10 hours on a Saturday or Sunday. So I have some information on that I can give you as well. And then the last thing is site selection. So it's an industry standard that you just can't go to a car wash in something less than 8 because of a lot of the reasons that I brought up today, like the exit lane and the queuing and stacking and the turn left. So I have information here from University Hospitals, which is a major equipment vendor. McNeil Car Wash, which is another major equipment vendor, Sunny's, Tommy Wash. Every single one of them says you need 1+ acres to build a car wash in Heather. So there's another regulation in the town. It's section 7.1.
In the town or in the city?
In the city, I'm sorry. And the purpose of site plan review is to ensure that a site can properly accommodate proposed use and new uses or structure or expansions of the existing uses. And I think it's apparent and evident that this property is just too small to do what they want to do. And I understand it's an approved use in the zone. And if they were trying to build it on the street in a place where it didn't affect the residential area, and they had a big enough piece of property where they could circulate cars, exit people without having to back them up, which will affect my business. If they have to back 17 people out of line, it's going to directly affect us. If those things weren't the case, I wouldn't be standing here today. I'm not here because I'm a competitor, and I know that somebody is just my word, because I am a competitor and I am here. But putting this on that property will be a detriment to the neighborhood, and I have a business in it, and that's why I'm here. So I can leave you the rest of that information and copies for. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
Okay, so in beginning to look through all this, I found that the city of Plattsburgh has a regulation 360-25B that specifically talks about car washes, specific to about a car wash. And it does state that such an establishment shall not be closer than 200 feet from our district. You know, one of the arguments on the paperwork that I read was that the property is a used car lot, but currently there's no structure on the car lot, it's just a parking lot. There used to be a building there, and we were glad when that finally got torn down, we didn't have to listen to the intercom system from Ford across the street, talking to Ford on the other side of the street, which we would hear throughout the day. Another thing that was mentioned is that if they said an automobile car wash will not create an expanded detriment to nearby properties from its current use. Well, as a resident of the R1 district, I feel that it is. Disagree. And part of it is being the first issue, the noise. We do hear Eco Wash, but Eco Wash was there way before our neighborhood was there. When Eco Wash was there, the Haley Avenue didn't even exist yet. We understand that we're located close to Cornelia Street. I know there's noise on Cornelia Street. We do hear the cars on Cornelia Street. We hear them. We understand that we just don't want to say that we don't want a business to go in there. We just don't want this business to go in there. It's noisy. You can't control music that the cars waiting in line are going to play with the windows open. You can't control the noise from the employees shouting to each other over the noisy machinery that's in there. I don't believe a fence will help in that aspect because there's already 12-foot hedges and other plant life there that help to alleviate some of the noise that we do hear that is there. And I don't see where a fence is going to make that better. Bear with me a minute.
No, that's okay.
Because I was going to read through this, but I just
Take your
not.
time, it's okay.
So another issue I have is that there's a high water table in this neighborhood. I don't know what the ecological effect that may be to the groundwater. Yes, I understand a lot. Most of it will go into the sewer system and go away, but there's much of it won't. And in the part of one of the questions on the short environmental assessment form, part 1, question 13A, does any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining to the proposed action contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by federal, state, or local agency? And the answer yes, that the digital mapping information on local and federal wetlands and water bodies is known to be incomplete. Refer to EAF workbook. I don't know what the EAF workbook is, but I would think that maybe somebody ought to be completing what the wetlands are. Does that include our water table? Is it talking about the pond next door to Walgreens?
I don't know what the wetland is up there either, that would be talked about, and depending on how those secrets get filled out, if you do them online, sometimes it checks off things that it's not supposed to check.
No, but this was their answer, that digital mapping information on local, federal wetlands and water bodies is known to be incomplete, refer to EAF workbook. That was their answer to that question, 13A.
And this is on the short form secret.
Part 1, question 13A.
Do you know why that's
So 13A is one of the auto-generated fillers for
Yeah.
the EDC form. If you look at the back, the AF map for a summary report, that's something that automatically fills in, so like we've done with other short.
So that's wrong.
Yes.
13A is wrong. And again, I'm telling you, these auto-generated, we've had them say they're archaeological. the old Merkel house, they said was an archaeological site and dump. And one of them that we got one time for a project there, next door.
Okay,
So, but it's good that you caught that. The answer on that is no, of course. But, the only other thing I'll tell you is that some of the stuff, and I'm not talking in general with this, but I will talk to you quickly about the water and the storm water and the water coming, the actual facility, it shouldn't happen, is the water that's generated as part of the process is controlled, collected, and sent to, eventually to, the city's sewer system. The site, the water on the site needs to, and that's not our jurisdiction, as one explained. That is part of site plan. You say, how are you handling stormwater, collecting it? And that is from, now the way it is, just so you know, this is from building more than zoning. You have to collect all of the water from any impervious surface, treat it, and then discharge it at no faster rate than it used to be discharged to the city's storm system. So, but I'm not saying it is or isn't good or, but what I'm going to tell you is that's one of the big things is controlling water, both types of water. But it's also not our, that would not be our jurisdiction, that would be the jurisdiction of the planning board. So if they're at the planning board and say how they, that's when you go and say, well, how are they controlling the stormwater? Is it going off any faster?
well,
And I understand, I'm glad you asked, it's okay you asked the question. That's fine, that's what explained to you.
Yeah.
That's different than when you talk about what the code says about car washes or noise or fence, the stuff that's our jurisdiction. And it's okay that you bring it up, and then I'm supposed to say, that's their jurisdiction, that's all.
okay, yep.
Yeah, that's great.
And then the other issue is traffic. I mean, you know, yes, my house is not on Cornelia Street, but knowing that if you try to make it so cars can only take a right-hand turn when they leave there, it's not gonna happen. I had a business in Plattsburgh Plaza, and there's a right-hand turn only there, and people still turn left.
Yeah.
So if people are trying to get out of there and turn left, it is going, and if there is a backup of cars onto Cornelia Street, because they have backup of cars on Cornelia Street once in a while, and they have a much bigger entrance. Cars are going to want to bypass waiting for these cars in line, and they're gonna head down Haley Avenue. Many of cars do now, and they fly down Haley Avenue, especially Domino's pizza drivers. And it will, I know, it is funny, it's comical, but
No, it's not.
it is going to create people wanting to bypass that section of Cornelia Street and go around. You know, like right now, the traffic with the construction going on up by 87.
Yeah.
Cars are cutting off from there and heading down Ruger Street to bypass that traffic buildup. And that's what will happen with Haley Avenue. I live on the corner of Haley and Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay? So that's why it doesn't
Right.
affect me. So I do believe that it will be a detriment to the neighborhood because it will be louder, it will be busier.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. Come on up.
Just want to make one comment.
Yeah, okay. You can either say your name or not say it.
It says with traffic, with both facilities, when they're packed in the winter time, you've probably seen it, we all have, how backed up the traffic gets on one side. All of a sudden, you're gonna have both sides backed up trying to get into that section. They have a light on Eco Wash, which kind of helps people still get out. We don't. My wife comes down to come home, goes down to try to go down Coke Avenue, come home. She's gonna be stuck in line, because people are gonna be blocked. And we can't get it either, and both sides are gonna be blocked. And that's definitely a detriment for people trying to get in and out. Our neighbors are also agreed with that. And it's a big important stuff. So if they had the light, it'd be a little less restrictive, but this is a very restrictive spot. I don't think it's right for a car wash.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? Come on up.
Yes, my name is Aaron Fitzloy. I just have a couple of comments. Parking on that facility, I see like three, the map was there, I see three places for park. And I was wondering how many employees were gonna be there, and also where did the clients park on that kind of facility? If there's an issue or a problem or something like that. And also for rescue vehicles and fire and whatnot, to be able to get on and off the facility.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other public comments? I have everybody to hand me, okay. For right now, I'm going to, what we're going to is, I'm not closing. I have closing, but I am going to, depending on what we end up doing. For right now, I'm going to close with the option of reopening public comment period. So the question is, there's two things going on here. Number one, we have 4 board members instead of 5. And number two, we've got a bunch of public comments, some of which was less specific, some of which was quite specific, that I'm not sure if you're prepared to answer this evening, or if you want to look at it and answer it about all of it, no stacking on the size of the lot, anything like that. So that's my question is, do you want to, now you go back to the planning board again in a week?
No, we're not slated to go back until after this board meeting. We'll need time to work through final design.
Okay. So my question is, do you want to take some time, and I will still be postponing on the board's behalf, or do you want us to continue? Do you want to take some time to be able to answer the public comments? The specific questions directed to you and come back in a month, or do you want to continue on?
So before we answer that, I think we do have some responses to some of the comments here tonight.
We can do that now, and then we can still stop.
That was my question. We still have the.
Okay, I just didn't know if you already decided one way or another, but what do you want to do?
I think if we could have a little more.
Sure, go right ahead.
Dialogue.
So I closed the public comment. And then Kelly may have questions, Megan or Ellie might have questions, I might have questions. So we don't close our period, we can go whenever we want. But anyway, we've got some specific questions, and I guess what I'd like to do is direct us. I think we understand the concerns about noise and the impact of this being within 200 feet, which is an area which is a special use permit. The use is special use permit, allowed by right as long as it's not a definite. It is allowed in that district. Although it's not just a district, in a sense, it's also within 100. And yes, we know that everybody that lives on the back side of those businesses on the south side of Route 3 hear those businesses. And I don't know what's worse. You talked about the intercom there. I can't imagine what it's like as an example to live behind McDonald's or someplace where those things are going 24 hours a day and people are screaming, no, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. No, but I'm really serious. Like, yeah. I think that's got to be pretty detrimental too. We did have some correspondence from one of the people on, and I'll just summarize it. One of the people on Jennifer Drive who said that her husband works at night and she didn't want to because he sleeps during the day. That's one of the issues with this noise ordinance that I talked about before with Zafra is that again, what is normal to a district that's allowed, when you look at those businesses with the intercom, like Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's or any of them, they go 24 hours a day, and you're sort of exempted from that noise ordinance in a sense, right? You're not going to call the police and go, hey, McDonald's shut down their window or something. It's not going to happen. So that is part of how this works, but the noise is an issue, how they buffer the noise, and whether a fence is enough, or a taller fence is enough, or a fence with special sound panels, that's an engineering thing, that's a site planning board issue, really, in some senses, but that doesn't in any way concerns about it. I'm just saying that some of that is done by how you say you're gonna lay something out, or how you're gonna, maybe you need a different two sets of fences. I don't know, I'm just saying, but aside from those concerns, which are not invalid or inconsequential, I think the more important thing right now that I'd like to do is, we have somebody, yes, competitor, et cetera, but who's raised some questions about the capacity, even though they have a higher capacity car wash, and there's still limited stuff, and I understand it, and I'm not just looking at that as, here's a guy who's trying to stop somebody else coming in, it's good farmers market, less people selling vegetables, and where you sell your vegetables. You don't have a grocery store right across from your grocery store, whatever it is. I don't think that's purely his motivation, and I think he's probably pretty experienced at building car washes, and so are you. So the question is, how do we answer some of those questions about stacking, no exit lane, although it would seem to me that you do have the ability to come back around on the one side of the vacuum thing or whatever, and come back out. And this concept of capacity, again, their capacity is 165 here, and this is by length, right? That's why a 50-foot car wash, I guess that's what I want to say. There's a 50-foot car wash can only do so many cars an hour, but a 100-foot car wash can do more. Is that correct?
Well, I guess it matters what kind of product you want to put out, right?
What's that?
It matters what kind of a product you want to put out. And you can turn your track speed up to whatever you want. You can adjust that however you want. We're looking to do between 60 and 80 cars an hour, perhaps.
How many?
60 and 80 cars an hour. We'd like to put out a car every minute, 20 seconds. I'm sorry, every minute to 50 seconds. 50 seconds per minute. That would be our goal. Which Eco Wash puts out a car about every 30 seconds. 28, 30 seconds, I'm not sure exactly number, but I mean, I've timed it before. I think by adding another car wash to that area, actually solve some of the issues that some of the neighbors may have as far as traffic and flow. The pie in that area of people that are going to wash their car is not going to grow. The pie is going to stay the same. The option, the choice for the consumer, is going to give them another choice, which will alleviate the traffic perhaps going into Eco Wash, which will, they talked about somebody trying to turn left into our car wash. It gives them an option. They can turn right into Eco Wash. If they see that our car wash is full of that capacity, they have an option to go to Eco Wash.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm wondering if it's going to be a function of which way you're going. In other words, if I'm heading west, I'm going to go to Eco because it's a right-hand turn into Eco. If I'm coming down in the east, I'm going to turn it. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Yes, that's my professional opinion. So that's correct. Yes.
What about? Can you explain to me about the exit lane? How you would deal with that? In other words, when somebody comes around, somebody gets in line, and then all of a sudden they go, wait, I'm not going to get a car wash. How do they get out of the car wash?
So what we do on Margaret Street, and we have a similar situation. We don't have a lane that goes around the other side of the car wash. We have an area where they can back up, they can pull around the building and go out. Like you said, we've shortened our building, which is going to allow us to use what we were going to use for a second stacking lane. We can use that lane for an exit lane.
Right.
The inside lane. That's, Mike and I had talked about that prior to this meeting. It was a concern of mine. And that's one of the reasons we shortened the building, so we could meet the 15 car stacking in one lane.
So where would that exit happen when I'm looking at this plan right now and I see, and let's just look at the actual cars and then heading towards the bottom of the page, there are 3 cars. The third one is just starting the curve, there's one that's going the other way that's in the curve, and then there's 3 going into the, I know there's the rest is stacked.
Can you put it up on the screen?
Do you have this, you can put it up on the screen?
Thank you.
Thank you. So are we talking about where that car is on the side of the, is that a vacuum, right?
Can you point out?
It's a
There's not
pay
gonna
station.
be, there's not, it's a pay station.
There are no, there are no vacuums on this. No,
That's an access to it.
correct.
Go ahead. Either way.
So I had a conversation with Mike, who, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
You'll get it.
So what I asked him to do, again, we shortened the building so we could have.
Can you scroll down a little bit? Move that up a little, so I gotta stop it. The other way.
Yeah, like this? Yeah.
The other
Well,
way.
you think we can stay here for a minute. I would like to soften this, sorry. I have to share it with you.
You keep breaking it.
The area towards here, where the green area is, we would bring that in a little bit more, so we have room for this lane to exit out, okay? And now scroll up, please, Matt.
Yeah, I gotta stop sharing, so it's gonna, a little wonky, so everyone can see it. Right there.
Keep coming.
Which is fine, that's fine. So
Kyle, you should be able to move the screen without stopping your share.
So what I would also suggest,
Oh, I'm sorry, you gotta give me two steps, okay? Thanks.
is that this area in here become paved. In case you did have a car, like they said, they couldn't go through, the window won't go up, they'd be able to just back here and right out around, down to our exit.
Great. Thank you.
So would you still have a payment station
No,
there?
there'd just be one place.
Okay.
Then you don't meet the requirement of 15 cars.
We do. In the single lane, we need to require another 15 cars. That's why I asked to shorten the building to add those extra 2 cars.
What does that affect? Does that affect the amount of stuff you can do to a car when you shorten the building?
Or
I mean, is that for the different waxes and the stuff that sprays out?
sure, the less equipment you be able to put in there, the less area for drip time for between the blowers and the reservoirs.
But you still get the different level.
So our wash on Margaret Street is about 105 feet.
And how long is this now?
We're going to go 100 feet. So it'd be very similar to Margaret Street. And our wash on Margaret Street,
What's Skyway?
it's 80 feet. It's a touchless system over the Skyway. It's
Right.
basically a hand wash.
Right, yeah, I understand.
Um,
So that was one question. The concept of what happens when, however fast cars are coming out, and the ability that, I guess what I would tell you is, this is what I'm trying to understand relative to the business, and I appreciate your comments and all that stuff. I've always subscribed to the theory that business will only do what its physical plant will do. So sometimes we've had restaurants come in and they'll say, in the restaurant code, when 5 guys was here to work, Croissants was an example, they didn't have enough parking based on the number of tables, or when before Latitude was out there, or somebody else was out there, and they wanted to expand the restaurant, they didn't have quite the parking spaces in there. And I said, well, you don't have the parking spaces, so people are gonna go to your restaurant, if all the parking places are full, they're gonna go to another restaurant. And I guess the question is with you, if the cars, as the car comes in, you're either gonna be able, people are gonna come, and they're not gonna, are they gonna start backing up on Premier Street? How do you stop that? Is my question. I'm not saying it won't, but here you are and you're spitting out a car every minute, and then all of a sudden it's really busy and you find you got capacity, and you're doing 100 cars. I'm just picking a number, an hour, or whatever. Okay, so now it's every 30 seconds. But you used all these different numbers. And at some point they get out and they want to turn left, and we know that it's hard to turn left on coming out of Wendy's or any of these places. It's hard to turn left on Route 3, right? On that side. So eventually, at some point, you're going to stop being able to have cars go through the car wash, or else they won't have any room to stop, right? Theoretically. And eventually that stacks that line. The question is, does that stack that line all the way up? So eventually it stacks out on Premier Street and causes a traffic problem. Kind of out for the people that want to turn left. Now, the planning board didn't say you don't turn left, they, right?
No.
Right. So, and these questions, and I'm saying to you as an example, and people in general, this is really, in a sense, jurisdiction of the planning board, where the traffic control and traffic impact, and the planning board is what we as an example would not make, I'm not saying it could, but would not make a motion that would include the fact that they could only turn right. That wouldn't be our jurisdiction. We would say that the planning board would deal with those traffic patterns, and you would go to the planning board meetings, which I'm assuming you're notified the same way that everybody else is notified, within so many feet or whatever. I don't know how they notify. Do you, Joe?
Is there another planning board?
No, this is the zoning board.
No.
Eventually they do, if this project progresses, they do have to go to the planning board again.
I can.
We were outside of the planning board.
Okay, so we don't administer the planning board. I actually don't know what.
I don't know what they do.
notification.
That's what I'm asking.
I spoke to the planning board today, actually. They do not notify. They do have public hearings, but they do not send.
Okay.
I think it's advertised in the paper, but I don't think they notify.
So you understand, New York State meeting law, all the laws, they said that you must adequately notify the public of a meeting. And how you do that can be anything from advertising in the paper, which we always have this 7 days before we start advertising in the legals. It's on the city website. There are a bunch of ways. I don't know if the city is actually required, as an example. Joe, are you required to notify people within 500 feet? Is that a statute?
I mean, that's what we've always done.
I didn't ask that. That's what you've done, but I don't know if it says anywhere everybody within 500 feet shall get a letter. Here's another example.
You know, let me just tell you this. All different places do it differently. Some people post a sign in the front lawn, tack a sign in the front lawn, that's the public notification. It's also definitely, the Press Republican is the paper that we use, and we notify, we do that. Is sending written notification to the adjacent property owners required? I'm not certain, but we do that, and we're not going to stop.
Part of why I got a little, frankly, upset earlier, because I was told how bad we ruled our decisions, part one, but also, you know, but 2 years ago, when we went through a whole rigmarole of that thing, and the other thing is that it behooves people.
By the way, he was notified. What I handed him.
Okay, but it behooves people to pay attention to what's happening, like you did, in your neighborhood, right? And to understand it, that doesn't mean that the city is hiding anything, but, you know, people go, I didn't know anything. Well, did you read the paper? Did you read the legals? No. Well, read the legals. You know, I used to read when I was in construction. I read the legals every day. But anyway, that is the jurisdiction.
Ron?
It is required.
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel the need to make a comment. While I agree that the ability to turn left and right is not part of this, not specifically part of what is being requested, and it is not our jurisdiction to make those calls. I want to just kind of make a little footnote here that what is part of this is the stacking issue. And the stacking is an issue because of the size of this lot. And that is part of what we're discussing here. So I just, for the record, I want to put it out there that you're speaking to some things that are not within our jurisdiction to vote on. But I do feel that it all is kind of tied together a little bit, and I don't want to go too far away from that.
When you are talking about the stacking issue, are you talking about the cars entering the car wash or exiting the car wash?
I'm talking about both of it. And I'm also talking about your explanation for how cars will be able to leave if they need to. The unopened or the open window unable to be closed was an example that you guys gave. I'm just wanted to say that I feel like, yes, I agree with what you're saying, Ron, about certain things not being in our jurisdiction, but I don't want to go too far away from the thought process that the size of the lot is something that we are considering with this request. That's all I'm saying. Does that make sense? Am I saying that correctly?
Do we not meet certain requirements for, do we have too much building on the lot? Do we not meet requirements for stacking?
So in this case, we meet criteria for the city zoning requirements.
We do, yes. I mean, it may be an industry standard that people want an exit lane for convenience because they understand that that's something that might be necessary or desired, let's put it that way. But the question about our zoning.
So we meet the stacking requirements for the city for the drive. We meet the requirement for the size of the property, the requirement for building coverage. We actually are improving a lot. I go back to the comments from prior in regards to stormwater. This lot is fully paved, from nearly fully paved. We're taking it now from what is roughly 3.3% of open space. We're bringing it to 34% open space. We're actually improving, conditions of the lot. The owner has taken a look at some of the questions in terms of, maneuvering on the site, and we do have, I believe, viable options to address that at a planning level. As far as going in and out of the site, we came to folks right up front wanting, 2 lanes. Although we received some comment initially about narrowing the drive, having 1 lane right turn. We actually came in with giving options to alleviate any possibility of exiting issues. You can take a left or you can take a 2 lane. So, additionally, we did go in front of the planning board to start, for that initial review. The planning board, in my opinion, did a thorough review, had minimal comments in regards to this plan as presented, for us to move on to final design. One of their things they did offer to this board, and once again, because of the comments offered initially when we first came on board, was discussion of the left-hand turn. They gave a thorough evaluation that went out and physically confirmed some of the conditions there and explained why they felt that the left-hand turn lane was something that's reasonable and no directional signage right was required.
Hang on 1 second. Can you guys hear okay?
I can hear well enough, but you kind of paused things for a second, Joe. I do have a question in relation to something you just said.
We're done at the podium, right? You close the podium.
Yeah, if that mic can be moved, it's a lot better. Thank you.
You want this one, right?
No, you can use a keyboard. I don't think it'll cost feedback.
So the plan was up on the board and we were shared that document on the computer. And my understanding from what Kyle had showed me, because I was chatting with him to use the cursor and show me what you were showing the group. So my understanding is that in this perspective, that right-hand lane that comes in will be used as an exit lane if a car needs to leave.
Yes.
So, okay, let's just hypothetically say that that's the case. Okay, so there's a car that's leaving. You've got cars that are stacked up coming in. Hypothetically, I mean, it's a possibility. You've got cars coming out. How are they going to effectively exit to get out of there? The space is so limited. And if you have a line of cars right there and you got cars coming out of the car wash, and then you've got another car that can't get their window up and they need to leave, like that's problematic from my perspective.
Again, it's very similar to what we have on Margaret Street. I don't know if you've ever been to our Margaret Street location. This lot it's very similar in width. It's not quite as deep, but we don't use the backside of our Margaret Street lot for the car wash. We have a different garage back there.
So I hear what you're saying, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I do hear what you're saying about the Margaret Street lot, and I did take a look at it. They are similar, but there's a vast difference between the traffic on Cornelia Street and on Margaret Street. The number of cars, I don't think I've ever gone by that Margaret Street car wash and seen a line of cars there. And I've gone by the car wash on Cornelia Street and seen such a line of cars at the other car wash that there were people driving away. So they're comparable in terms of size. They're not comparable in terms of potential use.
We're talking about how they're going to exit.
Under circumstances that are vastly different.
Say it again, that last part, Kelly.
So I guess what I'm saying is that yes, you are right in that the two plans, the two sites are very similar, but the potential for the amount of cars at the Cornelia Street is much greater than the potential for the amount of cars at your Margaret Street site. So it's going to be a lot easier if a car can't get its windows up and it needs to exit. It's going to be a lot easier for that to happen.
So ultimately, that lane between the building and the outside entrance lane,
Yes.
What's potential that we would address at planning is that lane would no longer be an gated access into the drive-through. It would actually it would be your slip lane. Should a car need to exit, it would now be your slip lane out to the exit. It would not be an entrance lane. Ultimately, we already meet our stacking criteria for this site for zoning ordinance on the outside lane.
Okay.
And that was one of the reasons we took a look at it. In addition to moving the building away from that R district, it also allowed us to give us more stacking capabilities. So we only needed that outside lane to meet the requirements and needs for this problem.
I'm sorry, were you saying before that you would remove some of the green space by the building so that lane could exit?
No, only remove the control. Right now, there's two.
Yeah, I mean more towards the entrance, so that lane can
I apologize.
exit, yeah.
Yes, we would smooth that transition, a little further into the green space to give the width so that, you can completely exit around that outside lane.
Okay, so the car still would have to basically come out of a parallel parking situation and back out.
Have you looked that around so that second car drove into that lane?
Second car that's about to go into the car wash.
That's what it
Is
is.
that what you're saying?
Yes.
It's not shown on the design here.
Correct.
As far as a car that might pull up to the door at any car wash, they're gonna have to put their car in reverse and back up. If they're right at the door, right? They're gonna have a space to back up and pull it up.
I'm just not sure if I understand. So the car, there's like a gray car and there's a black car there. That black car, is it backing out or are you making an additional loop so that it can go forward? That's what I just don't understand.
So that car would not be there at the, when we go back to plane level, if this is something they want us to implement,
Okay.
cars would not be there.
Right. So you're gonna have stacking for 15 cars,
Correct.
and that meets the requirements.
Correct.
So if you're doing theoretically 1 in 50 seconds or 1 a minute at capacity, so that's 15 minutes of cars stacked. Plus whatever's in how many are in the building? 5
At a time? 4.
I'm just trying to understand. So you don't.
Right, that thing is what.
No, but what I'm saying is that that's more capacity in a sense. But let's call it 19, which might be about right. I don't want to say that. 15 and 4, right? So you have stacking for 19 minutes worth of cars, give or take. Unless you operated at 100 and something cars a minute or whatever that was, based on the size of the building, near 165. Do you ever do 165? Have you ever done 165 cars a minute?
Yes, sir. Right now, yes, sir.
I mean, an hour?
Yes, sir.
And on Grenada Street?
Grenada Street, we've got over 145. I don't know if it's 160, but yes.
And did you have any backup at all or no? You must have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the systems are designed to shut down. They have, if say part, somebody's talking on their cell phone and they're not paying attention, and they don't pull out of the car, wash the floor, and the car behind them gets too close, the system will automatically shut itself down.
And then the cars, can you go back to that plan again? And then coming out of it, how many cars? You've got some to the left-hand turn and some to the right-hand turn, right? Is that 2 cars? 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dimensionally, it's roughly about 5 to 6.
5 cars.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, both
So if we're 19 and 5 is 24 cars on the lot. At full capacity. 15, 4, and 5. Some of which are turning left, some of which are turning right. I personally won't wait to turn left. I'll, even if it's allowed, and it depends. If you come out, I don't know. Which one? I think Kentucky Fried Chicken is 2, maybe we'll do that.
Michigan's Plus at 11 on Sunday.
Huh?
Michigan's Plus at 11 on Sunday, you can turn left.
Yeah. But anyway, I just turned right and go wherever I'm going. Kelly Avenue.
Does the center go down as far as Michigan?
It does, yeah.
See a lot of accidents there because of that.
We had other issues brought up besides the exit lane, which seems like that's what you're proposing is the definition exit lane, which is different than what we're looking at here. I think lot size, I'm not sure about manufacturer's standards for lots and 1.1 acres and all that. I'm more interested in what we need, frankly, zoning. And again, I'm going to say that if your business is stacked up, I'm not gonna stop on Cornelia Street and back up on Cornelia. I mean, I think there's more of a problem, frankly, when people used to deliver cars on Cornelia Street, it was before, right? Ford had the cars being delivered, and that truck would just sit there for 2 hours or whatever. So, and I think, you know, I think for us and for the planning board, you know, the questions raised by the fellow representative across the street are important. I think the questions raised by the neighborhood are important. But again, although it's part of our decision about the traffic in and out, the left and the right, and I think it's, when this goes to site plan, as opposed to sketch plan, and then there's public comment period for all of that, people can go talk to the planning board.
The noise,
Do you want to, what's that?
the noise as well, is that part of planning?
I'm sorry.
Is the noise part of planning or is it part of this?
The noise is a question for us, some, and for the planning board both. So, again, if their tests show 70-something decibels of traffic and the same amount from the car wash, as an example, that need to be accepted as true, okay, not true, needing further study, all those types of things. But the fact of the matter is that the real question comes, again, it's an allowed use of car wash. The issue is the drive-through thing, and I think it's, when you look at, the question is, when you look at every business along Route 3, they almost all have some kind of a drive-through business, and their border touches the residential property, or they're all within 200 feet because they're all at zero, just like this.
But the city's regulations specifically point out automobile washing establishments. In addition to meeting the minimum yard and lot coverage requirements, these establishments shall be subject to the following regulations. Such establishments shall not be closer than 200 feet to an R district.
Right, and that same requirement is the same for drive-through businesses like Walgreens, any drive-through type business. It's not just car washes. Any drive-through business where a car drives in and drives out and goes to. Another example is Kenny Drugs on Cornelia Street. When they did that and put the drive-through in, that was an issue there. It was right next to, but it doesn't matter. It's property line to property line. Whether that drive-through window at Kenny's is 5 feet or 100 feet from next door, doesn't matter. It's just the property line. But what I'm going to tell you is that that's true about car washes. It's also true about restaurants. It's true about any drive-through business, including things like restaurants, drugstores, anything where you drive up to a window or drive through an establishment. In some ways, this is slightly different, but it comes into the same thing because this isn't really a business where you drive up to a window, get your order, and leave, like you do at Kenny's or at a drugstore. You're in a sense, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just trying to understand the difference. You're driving into an establishment and something done to your car, what if it was a 3-minute oil change? Instant Jiffy Lube or something where you drove in, 4 minutes later, you drove out and your car was on some conveyor belt. But my point is, all the drive-through businesses have that same rule. They don't do it. They all do. So it's not in particular the car washes.
Ron, I'm actually not sure a driving business.
What?
I'm not sure a driving business includes a car wash.
Right.
I think a car wash is separate. Definition for driving business.
But what I'm saying is that driving businesses have the same, to 200 foot, no, they're not the same, it's a separate ordinance.
It's separate, but yeah, they both require 200 feet.
Right. But it's not, all I'm trying to say is that it's not just car washes, it's any of those where the cars drive up. That doesn't mean it should or shouldn't happen, I'm just saying that it's not just that. What do we want to do? Do we want to keep going and vote? Do we want to change plans? Do we?
I was just curious, does past practice come into play and what they've already allowed inside the city to happen with car washes? Because, you know, I mean, the car wash on Weed Street, there's apartment buildings from here that wall away from it. There's, you know, directly across the street, which the street's not 66 feet wide at Weed Street, there's all kinds of residential areas. The one mine on Margaret Street was through probably grandfather, and then there's just a second. But the one on Margaret Street who has the apartments directly above the wash facility and adjacent to it. So does that come into play? Does that come into consideration?
It does and it doesn't. It depends when they were done. It depends on the precedent that's set or not set. So if something pre-existed this, it doesn't matter. When you did Skyway,
Pre-existing zoning?
huh?
Pre-existing zoning?
Yeah, it happened before zoning. Like we started to look at the different restaurants and stuff along Route 3. A lot of those happened before this zoning happened, so there wasn't something issue for them.
Yeah, most of those were established in the late 60s or early 70s. But
So-
certainly the car wash on Margaret Street that he's talking about was done under this current zone.
And one on Main Street.
Weed Street is the one I said.
He's talking about
No, Margaret Street, that's the one. The apartments above.
Mike Racine. Right, but I think Mike Racine, didn't Mike Racine get a variance for that, for being within 200 feet?
I'm sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm looking to see, but I think that he did, as a matter of fact. And again, and he was right in the middle of the residential.
If not on Route 3, then
Right.
this is Route 3.
But the question is, do we want to, I guess the question is, do we want to wait for a full board of 5 people? Do you want us to keep going? Yeah, one of the things to understand is that if we say, if you don't get 3 votes out of 4 people, you can't come back with the same project. For the same project. Now, that, you might say, well, I've changed the layout and this is what I've done different with the car wash to take care of some of those concerns, if it doesn't pass, or if it passes, then okay. So you want us to keep going? Okay.
It has to be substantially different.
Right.
And that means, I mean, did you define that?
No.
Yes.
No, I mean, it's hard to quantify. What could happen is if you brought back a plan that you felt was substantially different, and I felt it wasn't, you could challenge my interpretation to the zoning board, and the zoning board could either uphold my position or see it your way.
Okay. Did you have a question?
Well, comment.
Okay.
For, in reference to the McDonald's and KFC drive-through noise that you had mentioned, those businesses have been there for years and years. I mean, since I was a child.
Right.
We are talking about building a new business that's noisy and that is going to be new in this area. I mean, from where I am, I don't hear McDonald's and KFC, but I'm gonna hear that. And that's a new structure, not an existing. I mean, I hear them, now if they were to shut down and somebody else wanted to come and tear it down and build up another one, I might argue that because I hear that one.
You hear Eco Car Wash?
I can hear them, and I am not right against, I am not one of the houses that border that line. I'm on the corner of Jennifer and Haley. So I can't hear them. So we're not, if it was an existing business, I wouldn't be going, shut it down, shut it down. I'm saying, I don't want something noisy going up in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Where we're at though is that we're at a point where we've got those comments.
Yep.
And the other thing I'll tell you is, whatever happens this evening, let's say that he gets 3 votes out of 4. It's going to the planning board. You can bring all these concerns to the planning board. They have to answer them. They have to make sure that they deal with the noise. Any questions you have about stacking, whether it turns right only, all that stuff. And again, a lot of that is just not our jurisdiction. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I close the public hearing portion, not reopen. And if there aren't questions from the board.
I do have an additional question. I'm just curious how many staff members you'll have operating. I know someone had mentioned it, and I was curious how many will be working there at any given time?
Probably about 3.
3. Okay, so that would be taking out 3 out of the 4 spots in the front.
Correct, perhaps.
I mean, yeah, in
A lot of
theory.
people don't own vehicles.
Yeah.
But,
May I make a comment on that?
We won't have we have other facilities where our offices are located. The office that we want to put there is going to be fairly small. One is going to be for the attendant. The other might be for maybe me if I want to go up there and have a presence there. Our office is on Margaret Street. It's been on Margaret Street for 45 years, and that's where that will continue to be. My manager is down there. We deal with things on site, like at the Skyway, we deal with them. We go and deal with it, or
all right, so what I want to do is we have two different appeals, appeal number 2272 and 2273. 2272 is a Class B area variance request for construction of a tunnel car wash building with office space, efficient side yard setback. That is the one under which the 200-foot rule falls. And the side yard setback is 4 feet as opposed to 0 or 12. And we've gotten rid of the commercial driveway because you're going to change that.
Right.
The other one is a special use permit request for use of automotive car wash and installation of a 10-foot fence inside your yard. Again, these are, it's a special use permitted. This isn't the question about the 200 feet from the residential area. This is a sort of matter of right that it's an allowed use permit in the thing. So I think that what I'd like to do is, I'd like to do 2273 first, which is a special use permit request for use of automotive.
Ron, I wanted to bring this up last meeting, Scott brought this up, that he wanted to do the special use permit first.
He did, right?
Yeah, and you can't do it with that. Right? You can't grant a special use permit unless the other variances have been granted.
Then fine. Then we will do this, Class B variance for the construction of the tunnel car wash building with office space. And that is the 200-foot rule. And deficient side yard setback, which is 4 feet. But to do that, we're going to do the seeker, and that is a short form environmental. Let me make sure I'm right. Actually, didn't we determine that the short form was good for everything? Not the one.
Good for
Right, Joe?
Yes.
Right. So we don't actually need the one anymore, correct? For anything.
You still need it for a coordinated review.
You need for a coordinated review, which would depend on the size of the facility. There's a number of criteria.
Right,
for this.
not okay. So this is, again, this is the short form environmental assessment form. And yes, planning, zoning board, building permit as is correct in number 2. Located in joint state. This is, the only one was that it incorrectly did 13A, and that should have been no. And they answered the stormwater questions properly. And that's the, so I'm looking for a motion regarding the seeker that no or small impact may occur, and then I can, if we so agree, can sign the, can check the 11 things and sign it saying no or small impact.
I'll make the motion. I don't have that page, Lisa, but just as long as you have it, Ron, in your packet. For appeal 2272 for the Class B area variance request, after review of the short form environmental seeker, we find that there is little to no impact and that the chair can check boxes 1 through 11 and sign that he agrees there is little to no impact with this project.
Seconded by Megan. All in favor with a raise of the hands. Aye. Okay, that's the secret. So I am checking it and I'm signing with the CPA chair. And okay, so now regarding appeal 2272, I am looking for a motion to grant the Class B area variance request for construction of a tunnel car wash within 200 feet of a residential neighborhood and with a side yard deficient instead of 0 or 12 providing 4.
Meg, you want to take this one?
Meg? No?
I make a motion to grant, for motion, appeal 2272 to grant a Class B area variance request for construction of tunnel car wash building and office space deficient side yard setback. Actually, I have a question. Are we allowed to put into this? For me, it's very important that this other lane actually does become an exit lane. Can I mention that in this?
Yeah, sure.
With the understanding that second Q lane is going to be converted into an exit lane instead.
Do I have a second? Megan second. Okay, so a yes vote is to approve that. Okay. We have 1 no vote, Kelly Porter, and 3 yes votes, Megan Weaver, Ron Nolan, and Lisa. So I'm going to go around on this one and ask everyone why they voted the way they did. I'll start with you, Kelly.
I'm going to plead the fifth one on this one. I think my questions have really kind of indicated where my struggles are. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Megan, why did you vote yes?
To me, the jurisdiction of just the setbacks, I don't really feel that that is the issue of the project that everybody has. I do feel like a lot of the issues are going to lie with the planning board. So based on our jurisdiction, I felt that this was fine.
What Megan said, and again, I'm with that excellently and I'm a lot more comfortable with.
I actually was fairly torn about this, because I am concerned about, and I live in a noisy neighborhood sometimes, and I understand it, but ultimately, I felt that I was voting about what was within our jurisdiction, and that people can effectively deal with this more through the planning board and make sure that they can do it. And I feel that realistically, there's hardly ever been anywhere in the city a drive-through business and or car wash since zoning has been in place that has been denied. And it's been dealt with at the planning board level in general to make sure to mitigate the issues from it, which are very easily, not easily done, but can be done. In general, people who are developing lots understand there's going to be additional expenses to mitigate that. I'm not so worried about stormwater. I'm concerned about the noise for you, frankly, and I think that there are ways to do it. I also think that the planning board is best equipped to talk about staff. And although I did find the comments, public comments from the car wash people very helpful, it was helpful because it helped me get answers out of them that allowed me to vote the way I did. So that is one. The next one is that we are now going to, it's the same seeker. I'm assuming that we don't have to do the seeker twice because we did the seeker for the one, or I suppose we could, if anybody on the board feels strongly about it, we can say that the same seeker applies to this. Does anybody care? All right. I'm gonna ask everyone. I'm looking for a motion to say that the seeker that was approved for 2272 also has no adverse environmental impact or small in the same way it can be used for appeal 2273.
I'll make a motion that for appeal 2273, that we utilize the results of our findings for the seeker for 2272, being that they're both the same seeker with no changes.
Seconded by Megan. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right. So now, appeal 2273. These are special use permits. Again, these are our jurisdiction. And for the use of an automobile car wash, which isn't allowed use in the district. How it is regulated and how we deal with the physical parts of it is not part of this, as much as that it's an allowed use, but it's a special permit, which means that it's not going to have a hugely dense. I mean, it almost would have to be like a truck stop in the middle of Kogan Avenue. I'm not, it's got to have a real impact that nothing else would have. I mean,
Oh, no, Hogan Avenue looks like it is.
Getting better. But anyway, so there are two special use permits, but I think you can do under one. This is a special use permit request for the use of an automobile car wash and the installation of a 10-foot fence inside the rear yard. And I would only say that we can allow that, but also with a caveat, or I'd like it mentioned, or whatever final buffering is required by the planning board. Because they may say, we want a 16-foot fence. I'm just picking a number.
I'll make a motion, Ron.
Huh?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
For appeal 2273 for the special use permit request and the installation of a 10-foot fence. I make a motion to approve with the note that whatever the planning board decides for the barrier, either being the 10-foot fence or whatever is the largest of the two, will be approved.
Okay, seconded by Megan. Thinking with it. Okay, so a yes vote is to approve the SUPs both for the car wash, which is an allowed use of the special use permit, and for the 10-foot fence.
Hold on, just for clarification purposes, if they request a 16-foot fence, it does not have to come back to the zoning board?
Right.
What about it?
I'm sorry, yeah, Kelly, could you amend that to say, or whatever is required by the planning board?
Right, that's what I thought I said. Yes, whatever the planning board is requiring, should it be greater? Or,
Right.
so if the planning board says, no, you only need an 8-foot fence, are we saying that we want it to be a minimum of 10 feet?
Minimum 10 foot.
Okay, so,
But if the planning board requires higher or hedges or something like that.
right,
Hedges aren't under our jurisdiction anyway, but you know, they are if they're like, maybe they're saying we want hedges that are what they used to call the bombarding fence, right? Tree of fence, taller or something. That's up to the planning board, how, and the neighbors, how you're gonna buffer between you and the resident.
right.
Okay? That's clarified for that motion. So a yes vote is to approve. And we have 4 yes votes to approve the special use permits. So you are all set. Go to the planning board. I'm going to tell you that it really is, I'm talking to the public now more, and I know you're a responsible developer, and I know you're a responsible engineer. First of all, I think that if you want to know stuff, you can call AEDA, and they'll reach out to Terry. I mean, I suppose you can call Terry, but he's pretty available, frankly, and say, here's my concerns, how do we deal with this? And they can help you do it. And I think he wants to be a good neighbor, and I don't think it's that easy, frankly, with a big noisy car wash. Like that's what the whole image is. But I'm sure he knows ways to temper that. And he can talk about, yeah, I'll put it, when they're running, I'll have these doors until they open, or whatever he can do to help you. And I really, really suggest that you go to the planning and talk to them, and they'll work together. Their whole point, they have a little more freedom than we do in some ways, because they can just say, it's not a rule like it's hard and fast. You know, we have a jurisdiction, if it qualifies, we grant it. If it doesn't, you know.
Right.
There's a little more subjective. And you say, well, how am I going to deal with what, or maybe they can get some more written records to submit about the decibel levels, you know, the sound levels of various places, and that can help you alleviate some of your questions. And then the engineers can tell you, yeah, but you know, we find that with those decibels, we put up this fence, this high, or this kind of sound baffles, that helps it, whatever. Maybe it's better not to have a solid fence, it's better to have certain kinds of baffles. Yes, sir.
Well, my question is more common. You have these regulations, the 200 foot.
Right.
But yet you reference, okay, well, we've always left these, oh, this person left it. Why do you have it? You're not gonna enforce it.
Because I'll tell you why, this is what people say there's often.
Now,
It's
you have a regulation, why don't you abide by your regulation?
But you know what? We're in the variance business. That's what I say it as a business. But people don't come, it's easy to say, that's the rule, you can't break it.
No, I understand certain variances.
No, but just bear with
We
me.
use it in multiple.
When people come to us, it's because they say, this is unique in some way. The principle of zoning is this: my property is unique and should be allowed to be exempted from this regulation to the least amount possible. That's what zoning. So one way is to say, I want to build a car wash on sand ground, right? Probably not going to happen. But my property is unique, he's saying, and I'm just giving you some rationale, because it's a lot that works, and it's on Route 3, where everything else is a drive-through business like it. So my property is different than saying me trying to do it on sand ground. And they come to us because they want to be able to vary from the rules. And we weigh how we can do that to the minimum And we also rely heavily on the follow-up of the planning board to then take what we've allowed an applicant to do, because they can't do any of this until they come to us and we say, okay, as long as you get approved, you know, the planning board to look at all your stormwater and your stuff and your noise, you can do it. And then they go to the planning board. And it's not an easy process, and I'm sure you heard about, we went through a year and a half of prodding about what was or wasn't acceptable. And variances and special use permits, and it is a, sometimes it's very simple. The people that came at the very beginning of the evening had some personal family stuff that means they need more space. Well, the rule, they're 272 square feet more than they were allowed, and they were all ready. But it was unique, and their situation was unique, and it wasn't because I can fit more kids in, students in, or I can make them.
I understand, I just needed that.
That's not attaching to the health and safety.
That I'm not worried about.
I just needed, but anyway, what I'm going to tell you is that this is still the beginning for them. They've got a lot to prove. They've got to go back to the planning board, and you guys got to go to the planning board and say, here's some questions. And they answered about the exit lane, and they'll answer about everything else. But anyway, thank you everybody for coming, participating as a public and in a calm and polite manner. I really appreciate it, and we're all set, and you guys are all set. Go to the plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Just search. Yeah.
Hey, Jim. Not about, okay, so thank you. Whatever you're, whatever. Tommy, I'm not available. I don't think it can be.
Are we still meeting?
Kelly and I and.
I don't know if we have minutes.
What's up?
Kelly and I can't hear what you're saying.
Are we approving minutes, or are we?
Yeah, I think it's in.
We still have the city to do, don't we?
I thought we were.
Let me find the minutes. Okay. The minutes that I have, I'm not even sure, we have new ones. I'm just giving you everything this is the right one with Danielle on the right date, May 17th. Does anybody, and Kelly was there, Megan was there, and I was there. And so we couldn't do the minutes. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes? I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from May 17th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 17th.
Kelly, did you second that?
You did.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor of the three of us? Aye. Thank you. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by one of the two of you, all in favor?